Thanks, Eileen. And I do want to start just by acknowledging that I am on land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. This land was stolen but never ceded, and that wrong does need to be corrected by treaty. It's been great listening to all of the speakers from Alison on through over the course of this evening, and there are very common themes throughout all of the speakers that we can add our stories too. In terms of every government is a model employer. Every national government is a model employer, and we have a government that is modelling wage suppression with its own workforce, driving insecure employment, shifting funds that should be going into workers' pockets to multinational tax dodgers. We've had some wins in this budget in terms of getting them to pull back on labour hire after about 5 years of solid effort, managing to demonstrate that what they were doing with their use of labour hire was costing taxpayers more money, providing the worker with less money and less job security, and providing a whopping big payday to the multinational labour hire providers for really doing very little at all. And that story fits with the stories that we've heard from Sarah about aged care, from Irene about housing, certainly CDP and the ongoing battles that have been fought against that incredibly inequitous scheme. The stories that we heard from Kristen, this is an incredibly mean and nasty government, but they do it with purpose. They are not making policy mistakes. They have a very deliberate policy agenda in mind, and it absolutely is transferring community wealth, public wealth, to their mates. And it is about undercutting a capacity for a public service to be able to serve the community. And it is about pitting community against the public service. And we can see how important, we know how important the public service is. We are living through it with COVID. The points that Alison was making right at the beginning, both about this government's overall push for wage suppression, but also that if we are going to have a recovery that benefits people, then that is going to be a public sector-led recovery, one that actually provides the sorts of resources that every element of our community needs to be able to have good and fulfilling lives. And we do need to organise, and we do need to come together and find a way of making that point crystal clear to the Australian community, because it is a point that the Australian community cares about. The Australian community cares about community. Again, one of the things from what we've gone through with COVID just demonstrates that time and time again. And in many ways, I wonder whether that incredibly revealing comment of Scott Morrison about he's not a man who holds a hose does actually play a role in something that does bring together all of the different threads, all of the different attacks on working people, and that we have heard over the course of this evening. Because he isn't a man who holds a hose, he is a man who is shoveling money into his mates' pockets. And he is taking it out of the pockets and the living standards and the support and the life of all of the people that we've been talking about over the course of this evening. So finding that way of coming together, finding that way of telling a simple narrative is what I think we really need to do, because it needs to be a simple narrative. It needs to be a simple narrative that we can actually all share. And there are so many commonalities in the stories that we've heard tonight. That inhumanity that Kristen talked about. So finding that common thread that we can share, that we can all work together on, because we all care about these things. We all feel for all of the other stories that we've heard this evening. They all matter. And that work of finding that way of us coming together and then us being able to cut through so that we are actually doing that organising. In many ways, it is less about what our manifesto is and more about how we can communicate and cut through. And that's the real work that I think we need to do as a movement. And I do think we are a movement. I think we are already there. And that's the work that I'm really interested in working with other people on, because I think that's what's absolutely critical for us. So I'll leave my no idea whether I took my time. I'm a union official. I'll just keep on talking. I'll stop there, Eileen, and
Okay.
look forward to the rest of the conversation.